Hello chess fans, this is a quick recap of the game between Wesely and Levon Aronian from the American Cup. In this game, Wesely displays his attacking prowess and crushes Levon Aronian, punishing both of his positional mistakes and tactical blunders. Let's get right into this game. So this game starts as an Italian game, bishop c4, and Levon goes for the knight f6 line. Wesely defends the pawn on e4, bishop c5, and castles. Here the bishop on c4 is generally a target for black. Black would generally play knight a5 and grab the bishop pair, but it is not yet possible because the pawn on d6, pawn on e5 is still weak. So black castles first, knight bd2, calm developing move, d5. So here this move as opposed to pawn d6 does not defend the pawn on e5. So this gives strong chances for white against the center. So therefore this d5 move is a risky choice, but it is quite playable. After pawn takes d5, knight takes d5, Wesely quickly puts the rook into the open file and targets the e5 pawn. Knight b6, bishop b3. Now black still needs to find a way to obtain counterplay. So here computer suggests as a5. So the idea of this move is if white chooses to capture on e5, then there is knight e5, rook e5, bishop d4, and when the rook moves, black could play a4, and if for example white plays bishop c4, then black gets in a3, and this position is quite uncomfortable for white due to the play that black has on the queen side. If white plays c3 instead, then black can simply play bishop f2, king f2, and a takes b3 with a complicated position. So already computer is suggesting a complex line in order to generate play for black. So Levon actually underestimated white's strength in this position. He actually went for bishop g4. This pins the knight on f3 and temporarily protects the pawn on e5, but as we will see, this move forcibly loses the bishop pair for black and gives excellent play for white. h3, bishop h5, knight e4, hitting the bishop on c5. After bishop e7, Wesely plays knight g3, hitting the bishop on h5. Now if the bishop moves away, then simply black loses the pawn on e5. So he is forced to take on f3, queen f3, and white has won the bishop pair. Now Levon starts with the a5 plan, but it's a bit too late because Wesely could play pawn c3 and keep his bishops. If for example black tries knight a5, that simply loses because there is rook takes e5. So after queen f3, a5, Wesely plays c3, planning to relocate the bishop to this diagonal from where it will target the white king. a4, bishop c2, king h8, knight f5. So Wesely jumps in with the knight, shows his intentions, targeting black's king, and it's a scary situation for black. After knight f5, Levon chooses a wrong idea here. The best chance he had was to immediately play bishop g5 and exchange the bishop pair. but he instead plays bishop f6, and Wesely plays the best move in the position, which is pawn d4. The point of this move we will see quickly, because he anticipates Levon's next move. Levon wants to play pawn g6. That's the idea of putting the bishop on this long diagonal. Activate this bishop on this long diagonal, but Wesely anticipates this idea when he played pawn d4, because now after g6 Levon missed this brilliant move bishop h6. Now it is impossible to capture this knight, because that leads to a quick mate after queen f5. This checkmate is unstoppable, so black can play e4, but this is simply checkmate. So after bishop h6, rook g8, knight g3, white has a very dominant position. Black has weakened his king side. Here if black tries bishop g7, then there is bishop g7, rook g7, and d takes c5. If for example black tries bishop g5, then there is bishop g5, queen g5, and queen takes f7. So black is in trouble here after knight g3, so he captures on d4. Here Wesely notices that capturing this pawn is only handing the initiative to black after knight takes d4. He sees that his pieces are very well coordinated and he doesn't need to recapture this pawn. He plays the strong knight e4, and this move immediately hits the bishop on f6. If for example black plays bishop g7, then knight g5 is deadly, f7 is hard to protect. If for example he plays bishop e7, then there is simply queen takes f7. So Levon tries bishop h4 here to remain active. He knows that he is already losing just after 20 moves from the start of the game, mainly because of the poor coordination of his pieces. The two rooks and the knights are completely out of play. Wesely plays rook a d1. Now he has brought all his pieces to the center. They are all in action, they are all coordinated. Black is yet to finish his development, and this position is full of weaknesses. So here most of the moves lose easily for black. Levon tries to be active. He plays pawn f5, but this allows knight c5, attacking the pawn on b7 and also eyeing the e6 square. If for example black plays something passive like rook a7, then there is knight e6 and queen d7, and knight takes d4 is completely crashing. So Levon tries to be active. He improves one of his poorly placed pieces, the rook. He brings it to the center, but this loses a pawn immediately. Knight b7 with the tempo. Here Levon had a tough choice. He has to protect the knight on c6 because the queen is eyeing at the knight. However, after queen d7, there is knight c5, and after queen d6, white wins yet another pawn with knight a4. For example, after rook takes e1, knight takes a4, bishop takes a4. This bishop is immune because there is rook e8 followed by mate. So after bishop a4, white is simply a couple of pawns ahead and winning easily. So after knight b7, Levon chooses to be active and plays queen f6, but this unfortunately limits the movement of the bishop on h4, and Wesely takes advantage of this immediately and plays bishop pawn g3. After bishop g5, simply bishop g5, queen g5, queen c6 is winning for white. So Levon tries pawn g5, and probably he overlooked Wesley's next move, which is queen h5. Queen h5 defends the bishop on h6 and continues the pressure on h4. After rook g8, pawn h4 check, king h1, black is simply a piece down. Levon tries rook g6, but Wesley, for example, could simply play bishop f4, and this position is completely won for white. In the game, Wesley continues to be instructive. He plays a very forcing move, which quickly puts an end to this game. He plays bishop takes f5, giving back the piece. After rook h6, there is rook e8 check, queen takes c8, king g7, rook g1 check, forcing rook g6, and after bishop g6, h6, black is an exchange down and the attack is still raging. Wesley brought back his knight and aiming to bring it towards the king side where the action is happening. Knight e7 is a strong defense. This move limits the movement of the white queen. At the same time, it has brought one more defender to the king side. Rook e1 attacking the e7 knight, knight cd5. Levon is hanging on, but after knight e6 check, king h7, knight takes d4, he is simply lost. His only chance is to exploit the weak king of white, so he chases the knight away and plays queen f2. He might be eyeing for some perpetual checks here, but Wesley had figured out things very clearly here, because after knight g5 check, king h6, now queen h8 check would be desirable, but the knight is hanging. So Wesley first defends this knight on g5 by playing rook g1, and this also completely creates a fortress around his weak king, because now all the checks are stopped and all the important squares are covered. The pawn is defended. Now also white is threatening queen h8. He's also threatening queen f7 and exchange the queen, and because there is queen h7 checkmate. So here Levon was forced to play king g7, but this allowed knight e6 check, king h7, knight f8 check, king g7, knight takes d6, removing the last cover of the black king, and here Levon resigned. So a highly instructive and brilliant tactical attacking chess by Wesely. I hope you all enjoyed the same.